Hi folks, I hope that you are doing well today. Today is Friday, so I can't really say that it is a midweek video, more of a late week video, but I think what I had to do was wait for the sun to come out, and the sun is finally shining today. We had snow yesterday, sunshine today. So it's nice to see the sun shining, spring is emerging. And one thing that I've been doing a little bit, in the rainy weather, it's been too cold to go outside, is I've been playing guitar a little bit more than I have as a pattern. I haven't picked it up too much recently, but during the past week or two, I've been spending more time playing the guitar. And a few things happen as I do that. First of all, I realize these calluses that I've built up on my fingers have gone pretty soft, and I need to build those up again. Another thing is I realize my fingers are just not quite as used to it now that they're a little bit out of practice. So I have to sort of slow down and go back to some basics. You know, in my right hand, I have to pluck one finger at a time and press thumb, middle finger, thumb, index finger, thumb, do some exercises and get into it. Practice, work up to a point where I can comfortably play the songs that I want to play. And that got me thinking about freedom, which might sound a little strange. But it got me thinking about a Christian understanding of freedom. Christians have been thinking about the topic of freedom since the very early church, especially St. Augustine in the 4th century did a lot of thinking about freedom and what is freedom. And we have a different understanding than what St. Augustine was thinking. We have a very modern conception of freedom, meaning the absence of any constraints. That if there are no constraints, then I am free. I can do whatever I want. And that's how we define freedom. So, for example, I am free to play whatever song I want on the guitar because nobody can tell me not to. I have the freedom to do that. But do I really have the freedom to do that if I'm out of practice? Or if I don't even know how to play the guitar? Do I have the freedom to play any song I want to? Only in one sense, but it's a pretty limited sense. Only in the sense that nobody is keeping me from trying to do it. But I don't actually have the freedom to pick up the guitar and play it well, or the concert piano, or run a marathon, anything that takes a certain amount of work. Augustine had a different understanding of freedom. He understood freedom, and I will say that his understanding was a much more sort of biblical framing of the idea. He understood freedom as the conditions in which you are able to do what you're supposed to do. So, if humans are created in the image of God, to love God, to serve God in creation, and to bless one another, then what are the conditions that allow humans to do what they're supposed to do? And that's what freedom means for Augustine. I'm probably being overly simplistic, but I'm going to reduce it even more here to say it's not so much about thinking of freedom as freedom from constraints, but instead thinking about freedom as freedom for doing what I'm supposed to do. Freedom being the conditions to make me be able to succeed at what I'm supposed to do. So, in that sense, freedom to play the piece you want on the concert piano involves a whole lot of scales and practice and repetition. And once you've done all that, then you have the freedom to sit down at a piano and play it beautifully. But until those conditions are met, that you have the practice, you have the technique, you have the knowledge, you have the experience, until those conditions are met, are you really free to play the piece? No, you're not. What Augustine understands is that Jesus Christ is the key to Christian freedom. It says right in Galatians chapter 5, verse 1, "It is for freedom that Christ has set you free." Christ sets us free. Why and for what? Too often we think about from what? From demands, laws, restrictions, commands, whatever. Instead of thinking about freedom in a more biblical framework, which is freedom for doing what we're supposed to do, which is to serve God. That Christ provides the context, redemption through Christ, new creation through Christ, being renewed and transformed in our mind, in our spirits. Like it says in 2 Corinthians 5, in Christ you are a new creation. Until that new creation reality comes into our lives, we don't have the freedom to serve God as Christians. Christ is the key to Christian freedom, not because then nobody holds us back. That too, but even more than that, then we are free for doing what we're supposed to do, which is to serve God well in this world. Two different ways of understanding freedom. Paul says a little bit more in Galatians chapter 5, a few verses later. He talks about what the point of living out faith is, or more accurately, how faith should be lived out. Paul says, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew or a Gentile. Now that in itself is kind of an earth-shaking thing for him as a Jew to be writing, because that was a thing that mattered a huge amount. But in the context of talking about how Christ has set us free, Paul says, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew or a Gentile. And then he says, the only thing that counts is, and if you're like me, you're going, this sounds like he is about to say something very important. The only thing that counts. What's he going to say? The only thing that counts is knowledge. The only thing that counts is prophesying. You could fill in. What is he going to say? The only thing that counts. He says, the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. That is a powerful statement, and one that I've spent a lot of time just thinking about. The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. We might not have the freedom to do that on our own. In fact, Paul would say, we don't. But in Christ, God creates the conditions in which we can do what God made us to do, which is to live out our faith, expressing itself through love. I hope that you have a great weekend, and I'll see you again next time.